I do believe it's different kind of communication than most people think of. I like calling it empathic communication. My background is in something called nonviolent communication, a whole international body of work. But I like to think of more generally, it's communication that's about creating an empathic connection between us as human beings, or even within us, within ourselves, between ourselves and others. So it's this ability really to access this quality of connection where we feel kind of underlying commonality under our differences, all the differences that we have, this sense that we have, that we're sharing in a kind of common humanity. It's that we're all connected to the same life on this planet, and that we're part of the same species and the same human family, and that there's this sameness that we can feel and that we're hardwired for. I mean, neuroscience tells us that there are these sort of attachment system in the brain, that's all about bonding and friendship and affiliation and love and connection, and that we're wired for that. And then we get disconnected from it if we're triggered into the fight or flight system, the survival mechanism in us to go into fear and anger and defense and things like that. But when we're in a safe space, that we feel safe and open, that we naturally connect in an empathic, compassionate, caring way, that we're just sort of wired for that as social animals, social beings. And so this process really, it's a way of, I think of communication as not only the way we use words and language, but also how we use attention, how we can be, aware and mindful and kind of direct our attention and kind of be aware of attention itself and awareness itself. That's part of communication, that ability to be mindful, as well as use words in a way that's in harmony with that empathic quality of what connects us kind of more universally as human beings. So this communication approach is really focused on that, how to create this quality of empathic connection where we feel that sense of commonality, and we're motivated naturally to want to give and receive compassionately out of the natural desire to contribute to one another's well-being. So that's what how I like to talk about this kind of communication. The integration of mindfulness for me is really key to this type of communication, or I could say just more generally, just how we are in conversation. How do we have conversations with ourselves when, we talk to ourselves a lot inside, and also with each other? And how do we, do that in a way that, mindfulness has become more and more widely known, and at the kind of general cultural level, it's very common now to see mindfulness on the cover of magazines, and it's becoming just like yoga. And I think for me that not only for a sense of overall health and wellness, things like yoga and meditation are becoming much more well known and accepted as part of how are we human beings, how can we function optimally and in really healthy ways, right? And at our best, at our peak as human beings. And I really believe this way of communicating is part of just human health and wellness. Just like mindfulness is a way to kind of train our mind, our brain to be able to focus attention in certain ways that are healthy and beneficial to us, that it's that's a part of communication too, that it's I think it's actually sort of primary, that how we use language is really powerful and important. But even before that, the ability to be present, to be aware that we're aware, to be aware of the content of our minds and what's happening in our bodies, to have that sense of our own awareness of that, so that then we can have more choice in how we use words, or how words come to us that are going to connect us in that way that's empathic. So I think of, in some ways, that empathy and mindfulness are just two different ways to talk about a very similar thing. That to be empathically connected is, in a way, to be mindful, to be aware, because in that awareness, there is, I find in my own experience, that there is this natural way we feel more connected to not only ourselves, but others and just life in general, just kind of the world. We can feel more connected when we are more mindful, more aware, more conscious. And so to me, it's just actually it's like a dimension of empathy, is this ability to be mindfully aware. And it's a central component to me of this approach. Yeah, so conflict, how to deal with conflict, to me is integral to this as well, because that's where, where the empathic connection breaks down. And one way to talk about that is being in conflict within ourselves. Sometimes we're upset with ourselves, we're judging or blaming ourselves, or we're in conflict, we're angry with others, and we're clashing around different ways of doing things or different belief systems or whatnot, right? So obviously conflict is a very prevalent and natural thing so conflict is part of being alive and being human, and part of growth and evolution and development is conflict and resolving conflict and sort of moving to the next level from that conflict. So conflict is necessary. It can be very constructive and essential to be able to grow into some next stage or phase of something, or some new emergence of a new possibility. But a lot of people don't know how to deal with conflict in that really constructive way. Most of us are very afraid of it because it triggers the part of us that is worried about our survival, and that we have to fight for our existence and to protect ourselves. And so that system in us gets activated, and we start reacting in ways that are the opposite of connection. However, though, most of the time, unless we're truly in a life or death situation with something or someone that's trying to harm us or kill us or something, that most of the time connecting is a much more effective way to deal with a conflict, and especially in any kind of social situation, again, unless it's a truly sort of oppressive or violent, or someone trying to harm us and have bad intentions towards us. Most of the time that's not the case. People have different perspectives and they have different judgments of each other, and they're fighting over things. But so if that's the case, then I find the most powerful way to resolve a conflict is to create empathic connection, to connect in a way where we feel heard and understood by each other. We feel that that underlying commonality, that universal sense that we're part of the human family together, and that we feel motivated to want to not only meet our own needs, but to care for the needs of other people. And when other people feel that care for their needs, then there's this natural cooperation, right? We trust that we care about one another, we want to work together, and that's the more optimal way, right? Human beings have done so well on this planet over the millennia because we've been great at cooperating overall as a human sort of tribe and species. But of course, when we get in conflict, we can be quite violent and dangerous with each other. And so this ability to respond to conflict with connection, and the connection where we end up having empathy for one another, being compassionate and wanting to care for each other and work together to get everybody's needs met. That's really the optimal healthy and sustainable way of being together. And I think now, if you look what's happening in the world, we need that more than ever to be healthy, to be sustainable on this planet, and to work together in a way that's really optimal for living life on this planet. More and more community is super important to me, and I like calling empathic community. So there's just sort of community in general, that we all have a basic need for family and community and belonging, and these sort of social connection. But I like to talk about this in terms of empathic community, a particular quality of community, and building community in our own lives and with people that we can interact with, that we can give and receive this quality of speaking and listening in a way that that is empathic, that sort of feeds that part of us that really needs that quality of connection, that there's a depth to it. It's not just on the surface, but there's a depth of what really matters to us, how we're truly feeling, and the emotions in us, and what our deep needs are, and what has deep meaning and value to us, and to connect on that level and have people in our lives where we have sort of almost rituals or structures or this ability to connect that way and practice. Like it's a way of practice, like you'd practice meditation or yoga or something. To me, it's just another form of practicing this mindful, empathic conversation that builds our capacity and ability to do it. It feeds our need for it, to be healthy, to have enough of that in our lives, to receive it and give it with other people, and then to be able to deal with conflict with one another and get support. So to have support to deal with the challenges of life, and life is very challenging. And so to have lots of people we can get that support with and from to deal with things, and then also to deal with conflicts, and to have sometimes other people to support us and how we're dealing with conflict. So how to be in community in a way that this way of having empathic communication skills and conversation ability and dealing with conflict as a sort of web of interconnectedness in a community, that I think is crucial for just developing the skills. If you try to work on this just by yourself, it's really hard. But to develop these abilities in community, I think it's such a important way to develop ourselves, and then to just to be able to have that support system in place. There are different ways you can do this, like basically any ways that you can connect up with other people to learn and practice together, and have that, and just really see that as an important part of your learning. There are ways that I offer that to support people around that. One is an online community where I've set it up so people can join that, and there's a self-guided course that's part of it, that you can learn things that I put together you can do in a self-guided way. But then it's also a virtual space where you can meet people and connect and practice and just share things online, or set up calls with each other, just different ways you can meet people and build that. So you can build it with those people like that, and then you can learn sort of how to then create it in your own life with the people in your life that are open to this, to have these kind of empathic conversations, to deal with conflict differently, to build that up in your own life, but also to have people that you connect with in other ways that know about this, that can be kind of a larger support system. So there's this online community I do. There's just different levels of what I call community practice kind of sessions or programs, where different levels of experience, you can meet people that way with my kind of guidance and facilitation in the live sessions, and then you can practice with each other in between the live sessions and build up community and support and people that you work with that way. And of course, there are in-person workshops you can go to, a lot of people that do work similar to me that you can find in your local area. The best place is johnkinyon.com, my website. So from the homepage of the website, you can read about the things that I'm sharing with you now, about my general approach. You can click on the community, the online community, or the different levels of online training that you can. So right from my website is a good place to kind of see the different options. I have a resource page that you can look at to access some related resources. So yeah, there's quite a bit of description of each of these levels of training on the website.